Good evening and welcome to the Outer Circle Inner Stillness. My name is Reese Basimio, and I am an addictions recovery counselor here in Gresham, Oregon. And here on the show, I talk a lot about sobriety. What is sobriety? How do we live the sober life? And a lot about the fun science of what addiction is and what trauma is and how relationships interact with all of that. And things like that. This show is a listener supported gig. So if you find this sort of resource helpful and have $5 or $10 a month to spare for a show like this and resource like this, please do visit patreon.com/outer circle and you can lend your support that way. Topic for tonight, dry January leading into dryish February. Last month, the addictions counselor, decided I should do dry January like everybody else, which was good. It was a fun thing, and it was my first time doing that sort of thing. And you can visit the last video I did about this, talking about how it was a little bit of a superfluous thing. I don't identify as addicted to alcohol or in recovery from alcohol or substances in general. I have other vices. But I wanted to do the experiment to see, because I do drink, and I wanted to see, well, what will it be like to not, and how will that feel? And that was the experiment. That was the exploration. So here are my reflections. I completed dry January successfully, with the exception of one cocktail. And there was a story there. It was at the monastery, and it was prepared for me by a monk, a very talented monk who does everything super, super well and very tasty. And it was, Saturday evening, men's night in the monastery, in the library. And it was one of those occasions where declining would have drawn more attention to me than drinking. And that was also another subtle part of it, is not making a big deal about it, like, other than broadcasting about it on YouTube, like not doing it for a lot of attention. So I had the one drink. It was a bee's knees. I believe it involved vodka, lemon, and honey. It was very tasty. So there was that one drink, but otherwise I did not, and I found that it was not an overwhelming process, not very difficult at all to abstain. For a few days at the beginning, I had headaches, and after that wore off, I felt fine, and I drank a lot of tea, chamomile, valerian root, and occasionally like a tulsi ashwagandha mix. And on nights when I actually went to bed at a decent hour, I slept really well, and arguably a little better than I normally would, being powered by herbs and not by chemicals. So that is something I noticed there. Not too many withdrawals. So some things that I learned. I learned that I do not actually need alcohol to feel comfortable or to enjoy my evenings. I had many delightful evenings drinking tea, and some evenings watching a show with my wife, and she would have a drink, I would have my tea, and it was fine. And it was completely fine. There were other social occasions where people were drinking, and it was fine to just not, and to just be fully present, fully feeling all my feelings. And it was fine. It was really lovely to be able to mark that boundary for myself and to keep it. I felt great physically, and I felt great mentally and psychologically to know, hey, I resolved to do this thing and I'm keeping that resolve. Uh, Speaking of the herbs, I did learn. I have typically, when I drink tea, I do chamomile in the evenings, chamomile with honey. And this season, I really discovered valerian root. It's stronger, and I think you have to be a little bit more careful. Probably one of those, don't choose if you're pregnant sort of things. But for my system, it worked great, and I slept really well, and it was nice. Tea helps me to relax and like truly relax. And there were a couple of evenings where I not only did tea, but I would also like read instead of watching a show. And I think one evening I even did yoga before bed. And that felt really good. It felt really good to just tend to myself and be gentle. I think this whole sobriety thing is much more than just not drinking, and much more than being abstinent from a chemical and much more about becoming present in yourself and tending to your body, connecting to your reality, connecting to the people around you. And certainly something like yoga or stretching or deep breathing will be very connective within yourself. It's a very great way to connect to your own system. So I learned that. Uh, Parallel to going without alcohol, I'd also resolved, because I can't do anything halfway, to also not do late night snacks. So I set the cutoff for myself of stopping eating after 9 o'clock p.m. This was harder. I did it somewhat, and there were lots of cheat days, and uh, so I've learned something about my relationship with food. Um, I discovered that there were some nights when I was legitimately hungry, and I offer maybe opted for a healthier snack, like a little bit of fruit or something like that. Another times, really, I just wanted the comfort of food in my mouth, which tends to be the case when I eat late at night. Is it's comforting and it's soothing, or it's a way of participating in something because sometimes my wife will also eat something late at night, or when we watch a show, we'll have popcorn. Sometimes we'll have other sweets, and food is not just food. Food is ritual. Food is culture. Food is relationship. Food is a love language, and so stepping away from that, especially because I didn't really talk about it, I just kind of did it. Uh, and so trying to step away from food in that way without a really supporting infrastructure, without and then I could have set that up for myself if I did this differently, but I didn't. And so it was a lot more challenging to just like not eat and watch other people eat when I wanted to eat. And I discovered that this appetite was much harder to say no to. So there's something I learned about myself. I have learned that I should probably reflect further on my relationship with food, which means probably also reflecting on my relationship with hunger, and which probably means reflecting on my relationship with discomfort in general. When you know it, I don't like being uncomfortable and I don't like saying no to myself. And there feels like there always has to be something. Uh, I notice when I start to say no to one thing, I really want to say yes to other things. And the way that it panned out uh, previously to January during the Nativity fast, part of that for me was not watching TV, not watching shows, not watching movies. But I had waiting in queue season 4 of the DC Titans show because I like a good superhero romp, and that one was waiting for me. So I had planned to watch that during January, and I could feel the shift in how I related to the medium. Sure, I wasn't drinking, and in some cases, I was also keeping to my resolve to not snack late at night. But I found that I was like gravitating toward this show uh, almost obsessively, and some of it was about the content. I think it's a cool show. Season 4 was kind of weird, but I think some of it was gravitating toward here's this kind of soothing, kind of dazzling, kind of disconnective experience. Because the way that I watch my shows, I wait until everyone's in bed or I go off in a room by myself and I just completely zone out. I like to immerse myself in the story world, and it's very much an event for me, not just background noise. And so I found that I was starting to have this like kind of obsessive draw to it, which I knew this about myself. I knew that this is how I approach shows and TV, and that happened again. And if anything was bringing unmanageability to my life or disrupting things, it was the TV more than anything. So I learned that about myself, that it's hard to say no to multiple things at once. Again, because I like my comfort and things like that. So part of how I can understand this is I made several significant shifts to my normal patterns of soothing and distracting and entertaining. And at the same time, work was very busy in my region. We had ice storms that kept some of us housebound for portions of it. Lots of my friends were busy for most of the month. uh, it's hard to connect with other adults in middle age who have families and jobs. There's just a lot of logistics involved. So I don't see my friends as often as I would like to, and that has an impact. I have my church community, I have my family, I have my work, I have my writing, I have my show in this case. Somewhere in there, I aspire to also say my prayers, but my social connections were much less than I would like. So So in all of this, what I could legitimately ask, and since you're the listener, I will invite you to also look at yourself and ask too. So was I really sober? Um, and this tends to be this is one of the big questions of this show is what is sobriety? How does one live it? And how do we approach that? And I'll come back to again. Sobriety is much more than abstinence. Sure, I was abstinent from alcohol. I didn't smoke anything, and but was I completely present with my life? Was I facing reality as it is, or was I seeking distraction? Was I oversoothing? Was I being kind of obsessive and kind of compulsive about some things? And yeah, I in regards to food, I was obsessing a little bit. Even on days when I was abstaining, I noticed myself shifting into this really legalistic mode over, well, it's 9:02. Is that too late to have like a little bit or or something like that? Uh, and especially in regards to the shows, I could feel that there was this kind of compulsive nature to how I would approach the things. So by my own lofty definitions of being like completely present, completely unfiltered, embracing reality as it is, no, I was probably not sober. And I would venture to say I'm rarely like completely sober in that way because there's always a part of me that's wanting to check out, whether it's through food or caffeine or social media or my phone or just like opting for projects fun projects instead of the work tasks that I have. There's always ways before me to check out of reality and not face things as they are, or to delude myself in some way. And if anything, this month I kind of noticed how, yeah, alcohol isn't really the problem for me. There's all of these other things that I need to be paying more attention to. So, uh, unless I be the sole one incriminated here, I will observe that tends to be a pattern among people too. So y'all can join me in this. um, yeah, it's not about the substances. We can stop drinking, we can stop smoking, we can stop watching stuff we shouldn't watch. And those are all good things. But there's probably also more things that we need to look at as well. There's probably more things we should be doing instead, and more ways we should be facing up to reality, feeling our feelings, doing our responsibilities, connecting with our people. A real true sobriety will include all of those things. It will include stopping the things that are harming us, um, stopping the things that are harming us, starting the things that are good for us, and continuing those and connecting with the people that are good for us as well. And all of that is wound up in sobriety. So yes. So now I'm doing dry-ish February. I'm relaxing my resolve a little bit in case something comes up that is just irresistible. But really, I'm kind of enjoying not drinking. And I finished my show, so then I picked up The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, and I'd like to watch that. But otherwise, I would like to like watch less TV, and I'm also in the throes of rewriting a book, so I'm hoping to finish that and read some things and actually go to bed on time so I can get up and do prayers or go swimming and things. So, and it would be good, I think, to continue to try to eat less in the evenings. So here I am, still not completely sober, not completely where I would like to be in terms of all of these things. I have a lot to look at in the relationships I have with substances, with media, with food, with projects, with everything. But I'm still striving, and I learned something in January. I'd like to learn something in February, and I think that is also how sobriety goes. Is we have these moments where we learn things, and we take what we learn and we plot ahead until the next insight comes along, and we keep going. It's a persistence thing. So, yes, the sobriety principle to consider is that there's always room for growth, always room for self examination, for tightening one's defenses, and for pushing oneself to overcome new challenges. There's always a little bit more present that I can be with my reality. Lately, I find that reality is richer and more meaningful than any form of distraction. Life is short, and I want to see as much of it as I can, and not through the lens of some intense experience, but from the calm and clarity of simply being me. Thank you again for listening along to our show. And again, if this is a helpful sort of resource for you, please consider donating $5 or $10 a month through patreon.com/outer circle. Your help and support would be very encouraging above all else, and also very helpful. And I appreciate your listening and participation. And I will look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.